DeepSeek R1 has just shocked the entire world. For the first time, we witnessed how a small AI lab based in China caused a $1 trillion wipeout from the US stock market in a single day. Nvidia alone lost $500 billion in market value. This marks the official beginning of the great AI arms race. Let's first take a look at how people are reacting. Here's President Trump addressing DeepSeek.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said, you have the most brilliant scientists in the world in Seattle and various places, but Silicon Valley, they said, there's nobody like those people. This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas. We're always first. So I would say that's a positive. That could be very much a positive development. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and you'll come up with, hopefully, the same solution under the Trump administration.
And here's what Sam Altman tweeted about DeepSeek. DeepSeek's R1 is an impressive model, particularly given what they're able to deliver at its price point. We will obviously deliver much better models, and it's honestly invigorating to have a new competitor. Stay tuned for some exciting releases. It's clear that Sam and other US tech giants are in panic mode now because of DeepSeek's breakthrough. Let's talk about this company for a second. DeepSeek was founded in July 2023 by Lian Wenfeng, a Zhejiang University graduate. They're not some tech giant like OpenAI or Google. In fact, they're working with limited resources, yet somehow, they've managed to release not one, but two models, DeepSeek R1 and R10. And these two models just changed global AI race forever. First of all, why are they getting so much attention from the AI community, you may ask? Why should you even care about such a small AI lab? Well, here it is. DeepSeek R1 is apparently going toe-to-toe with the best AI models out there, and I mean the best of the best. We're talking about top model from USA, specifically OpenAI's top-tier reasoning model, known as O1. Now, O1 is laser-focused on reasoning tasks, unlike models like GPT-4, which are more general purpose. And if DeepSeek R1 is really going toe-to-toe with O1 foot, that's a huge deal. That would mean R1 isn't just another language model, it's a serious contender in the advanced reasoning space. And, here's the kicker, it's from a Chinese company that, let's be real, isn't nearly as big or funded as these US tech giants. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. China? AI? Isn't that like a whole geopolitical can of worms? And yeah, it kinda is. We'll definitely get to that, I promise. But first, let's get into the juicy details, the actual performance of this R1 model. And for that, we gotta dive into the benchmarks. The numbers that DeepSeek is putting out are, well, they're pretty freaking impressive. These benchmarks showcase the R1's cutting-edge capabilities, delivering consistent, reliable performance across a range of tests. It's hard not to be blown away by what they've achieved here. First up, we got the AIME benchmark, which is basically a fancy math test for AI. On this one, DeepSeek R1 scored a 79, and O1 from OpenAI got a 79.2. Okay, not a huge difference, right? Super close, neck and neck, but it's still higher. And when you're at this level, even a tiny edge is a big deal. Next, we got Code Forces, which is like a coding competition thing, kind of like the Olympics for programmers. This tests if an AI can actually, write real code and solve problems. Here, R1 hit the 96.3 percentile, and R1 was just a smidge behind at 96.6. Again, super close, but R1 is, like, right there, holding its own. But here's where it gets really interesting. On the math benchmark, which is a bigger, more general math test, R1 scored a whopping 97.3. That's, like, seriously high, off the charts. O1 got a 96.4. So on this one, R1 isn't just keeping up, it's actually pulling ahead, and by a decent chunk. And finally, we got the SWE benchmark. This one's super important because it's about real-world software engineering stuff. Not just, like, solving theoretical problems, but actually writing code that, does something useful in the real world. And on this one, R1 scored 49.2, and O1 got 48.9. Again, R1 is in the lead. These are seriously good results, and, people need to wake up and pay attention. So what's the takeaway here? Well, if you add up all these benchmark scores, it kind of looks like DeepSeek R1 isn't just competing with a top-tier OpenAI model, it might actually be beating it in some pretty important areas, especially like real-world coding, which is where the rubber meets the road. And that, folks, is nuts. I mean, we're talking about a model that can potentially write better code, solve harder problems, and do it all faster and for way less money. That's the kind of thing that can, totally upend entire industries. But that's not even the craziest thing. They also got these smaller models that are performing out of this world. This chart I found shows that a 70B model is straight up crushing Claude Sonnet and GPT-4o. That is absolutely mind-blowing to me. All right, let's move on to some live coding demos to see the R1 in action. First up, someone asked R1 to visually explain the Pythagorean theorem. And get this, it generated a stunning animation in under 30 seconds. It used the Metanium library to create the visuals, and let me tell you, the result was nothing short of breathtaking. The animation not only illustrated the theorem perfectly, but also made it so intuitive that even a beginner could grasp the concept. It's the kind of thing that makes you sit back and go, wow, AI is really changing the game. But wait, it gets even better. Here's another example. R1 explaining quantum field theory. Yeah, you heard that right, quantum field theory. It generated an animation that broke down one of the most complex topics in physics into a series of digestible, beautifully crafted visuals. Imagine a topic that usually takes months of study, condensed into a few seconds of crystal clear explanation. It's like having a personal genius at your fingertips, capable of making even the most abstract ideas come to life with visuals. Now, I've played around with other models, even the Mightyos one, and I gotta say, this feels, just as snappy, just as good, if not even a little bit better. The code it generated is really well written, it's easy to follow, and it's surprisingly compact. And it did it all in a blink of an eye. I'm seriously impressed. I mean, this is just a simple example, obviously, but you get the picture, right? This thing is powerful. All right, let's talk about the cost, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. DeepSeek R1 isn't just powerful, it's also ridiculously cheap. And I mean that in the best, most disruptive way possible. We're talking about a model that could potentially make advanced AI accessible to way more people, not just those with, Scrooge McDuck levels of money. So, get this. DeepSeek is charging only 14 cents for a million input tokens and $2.19 for a million output tokens. Now, to put that into perspective, let's compare it to OpenAI's O1 model. They're apparently charging a whopping $15 for a million input tokens and a crazy $60 for a million output tokens. That's like a massive difference. We're talking about R1 being roughly 6 times cheaper, maybe even more. 6 times. I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. If you're a developer or a startup or a researcher or just anyone who uses AI, that kind of price difference is a total game changer. It's like, why would you even consider paying more for something that's similar or maybe even not as good? It just doesn't add up unless you have some super specific reason or you're just, a die-hard OpenAI fan, which, hey, no judgment, but seriously, it's like they don't want you to use anything else. Especially if you don't have a ton of money. Come on, be smart, save some money, and give this new model a try. Here's a twist that's nothing short of groundbreaking. DeepSeek R1 is completely open source. Yep, you heard that right. It's released under an MIT license. That means anyone can grab it, use it, tweak it, and even share it around, all without spending a cent or dealing with complicated legal restrictions. And here's the kicker. It's not just the model weights. DeepSeek has gone all in by releasing the code, the training process, and even the data. This is the kind of radical transparency that could shake up the AI landscape, empowering researchers, developers, and enthusiasts across the globe. Now compare that to OpenAI. Despite the name, they've been increasingly restrictive in what they release. Sure, their models are impressive, but most of the time, you can't see the full picture. The weights? Closed. Training data? Nope. You get access to the results, but not the recipe. And that's fine if you're building a business, but it's a far cry from the kind of openness that DeepSeek is bringing to the table. This move feels like a breath of fresh air and a bold statement on how innovation can thrive when knowledge is shared freely. Okay, so now we are a complete idea how this open source model changing the global AI dynamics. But let's address the real concern we all have. When we heard Chinese AI, first thing comes out our mind is censorship. DeepSeek is a Chinese company, and that naturally makes you wonder about potential government influence and whether they're going to put the clamps on what the model can say or do. So this model is heavily censored about political question, and at the same time, it not so censored to other thing. Like I asked how to dash Wi-Fi, it gave me answered. But when I asked about Tiananmen Square, it refused to answer. It did not even think for a second. For me, this is not surprise. I mean, it's just the reality of operating over there. But I hope that DeepSeek will find a way to balance the need for, responsible AI with the desire for open and uncensored expression. It's a tough nut to crack for sure, but it's super important for the future of AI and like the future of free speech. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture, the grand chessboard, if you will. What does all this mean for the whole global AI showdown? Well, I think it's pretty clear that China is not messing around. They're serious about AI, they're due tons of money and resources at it, and they're catching up fast, like really, really fast. This DeepSeek R1 model is just the latest example, and it's a pretty darn big one. It makes you wonder, is the US starting to fall behind? We've been the undisputed champs of AI for so long, but now, I don't know. Kind of feels like we might be losing our grip, just a little bit. I think we gotta be aware of a potential shift in the balance of power. And, it definitely seems like the US government is taking notice. There's been a lot of chatter lately about putting export controls on AI chips and trying to prevent China from getting their hands on certain advanced technology. It's like they're trying to slow them down or maybe even, cut them off at the knees. Now, I'm not sure that's the best strategy, honestly. I mean, I get the concerns, but I also think that a little healthy competition can be a good thing. It can push everyone to, innovate faster and come up with even cooler stuff. And trying to, artificially block the flow of information and technology, I don't know. It just feels like it could backfire. It might even encourage China to create its own completely independent AI ecosystem even faster. And they are already way ahead on that. And honestly, I don't think they need more motivation. And speaking of how the US is reacting, have you guys heard about this Stargate project? This is something straight out of a science fiction flick, seriously. Apparently, SoftBank, Oracle, MGX, and OpenAI are teaming up to build a ginormous supercomputer for AI that's going to cost, hold on to your hats, $500 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. $500 billion. With a B. It's supposed to be Power AGI or even a NASI. Recently, President Trump announced this massive invest for AG infrastructure that will able to train models that are way, way bigger and more complex than anything we have today. Now, is this a direct response to what's happening in China? I don't know, but it sure seems like it, right? It's all very dramatic. It's like a new space race. But instead of, rockets and astronauts, it's about AI, algorithms, and data centers. And the stakes are, arguably, even higher. My hunch? They are feeling the pressure, they see what is happening on the other side of the world, and they want to accelerate things, big time. This could be very good or very bad, only time will tell. It's a crazy, exciting, and maybe a little bit scary time to be alive, that's for sure.